Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to part 2 of my budget Boxster project. It is almost a year later. It is the first week of January of 22. COVID is still real, and I'm still in the garage. Had a great year with the car, though. I put her up into storage, quote unquote, I think end of October. Yeah, I think the last week of October. That's how much I got of the season, and then the snow came in and the cold came in. And I know many Boxster owners or many car owners, period, would say drive it year round, but you really need to know a northern Canadian winter to understand why we tuck these things away. So that's what I'm doing with this one. In this video, I'm going to try and keep it at another 20 minutes. Go over what we did last year, what I did in my cleanup of this thing, and let you know how she held up, and do a walk around on a few things that I want to do this winter. Not a lot on this list, but it'll surely take me to April anyway. So let's get started. And I'm going to go by last year's list, so we'll kind of go through it as we did first time round. Excuse the dust. I haven't touched this thing since I parked it, and I'm not afraid to let dust get on the inside. It's cleanable, and if you saw the first video and you know through the description of what I was up against when I first took this car on, a little dust inside is small potatoes. Anyway, I'll kick it off with the headlights. If you remember, I did some restoration work on the headlights. I actually pried them apart in the oven, took out the inner lenses, and did some paint work inside, did some paint work on this surround, and they did not disappoint. Now, on the driver's side, this headlight is the one that had the cracks in it, which I had cleaned up and covered here, and another crack down here. There was a little bit of fog on this lens that I had noticed a couple of times early on in the year. It eventually went away, but I can see the stuff that I used. I used one of those restoration kits where you do a wet sand, and it held up well in the beginning, but I can see where I can probably do that once again. And I'm going to do some refinishing work on the paint on this trim that I painted, where you see it down here. The sanding wasn't quite up to par. Other areas you can rub your finger along, particularly like right here. This is a great finish here. You can see where the light shines through. That's excellent. It's a smooth finish, but not consistent. So I'm going to take them down and do them again. Overall, quite happy. The paint did okay. Now, if you recall, I used a product from Turtle Wax called ceramic black polish and ceramic black wax. It was a specialty product for black paint, and I think the polish was great, but the wax was sort of subpar. Even the feeling, the wax to the touch wasn't real great. And if I go in close, I don't know if it'll pick up the swirl marks, but they are certainly there. So the ceramic thing, I think, is a marketing gimmick. They wouldn't just do it in a spray bottle the way they did if it was true ceramic. I do see some swirls in there. So I'm going to correct that again. I will go back to the Turtle Wax black polish, but I'll either go back to the traditional Carnauba wax, not sure which brand, doesn't really matter, or I will go with a true ceramic coat. We'll see. Not quite sure yet. I've always been happy with the finish of old-fashioned Carnauba wax, and I enjoyed the process of doing it. So I may just go that route. What else do we have? We've got, oh yeah, mirrors. So the mirrors, they were covered in 3M. I took the 3M off with this thing called a Wonder Wheel. The Wonder Wheel chewed right through, and there were all kinds of chips in the mirrors. So anyway, I got some Bondo, cleaned them up, and had them repainted. and I still need to wet sand. And by the time I had them repainted, it was April, and I wanted to get out driving. I figured I'd had enough enough of trying to put this thing back together, so I left them. They are much better. I'll show you the passenger side. This is the one that was the worst, and you can see where it's much better now. I just need to give it a wet sanding and really polish it up and shine it up and make it match the rest of the paint on the car, which for 20-year-old paint, despite those swirl marks, isn't too shabby. So I'm going to go over that again. The emblem, which is how we kicked off the video. Some people were asking me about ghosting, whether it was on the YouTube channel or on Facebook. Ghosting of the old Boxster text. Now, again, she's dusty. I'm not sure if you can see it. I can see it with the naked eye. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, but there is a little bit of ghosting there. Here we go. You can see the B there against the light. And here we go. Now that is, without detailer, you pick that up. And what you're picking up is really residue. It's not a different finish in the paint. Once it's all cleaned up, if I put detailer on it or a fresh coat of wax, that does not exist. But without the detailer and a coat of dust, you see the fine print come out there. Now, as far as putting the consideration of putting the Boxster logo back on there, I'm not going to do it. I actually enjoy the car with the clean Porsche text, and I'm going to keep it that way. Again, opinions vary, and I respect what everyone goes with. Some disagree with this. Again, I respect that. This is the look I wanted to go with, and I like it just like that. Going to keep it that way. From there, what do we have? Oh, the exhaust tips. Yeah, the exhaust tips held out fine. That was just a wet sand and some barkeeper's friend cleaned that up, and it held up fine. For the interior, I starting off with that centerpiece, I put this double din unit from Pioneer in there. It did fine. I've got to take it back out to attach the antenna. I didn't realize that I hadn't attached it until I took the car out for a spin, and it's like, I don't get FM radio on this thing. So I got to see if I attached that. I don't think I did, so I've got to go back in there and dig around for that thing. As far as the paint finish on these pieces, I knew it was going to be great, and it looked great in the sun. That was something that I was kind of wondering about. Once the sunlight hit this stuff, would it be too light, too dark? Would it throw things off on the interior? But no, it was a great compliment. It looked great. The shifter did as well. That shift boot, I'm putting leather conditioner on every leather surface on this thing now, so I shouldn't have a deteriorating boot again for the couple of years that I'll own this car. The seats were a hot topic. I got a lot of feedback on the seats in Facebook and on YouTube. And I agree. They look great. In pictures, they actually look better on camera than they do in person. It's more of a brick red in person, but it's like a saddle brown on camera, and that's what I'm looking at, looking through the phone right now. But I'm going to redo them. They held up great. Magic Mender was the company that I went with to dye these things and repair them. And the repairs kept up okay. There was one tear that came back over here, and it was because I didn't use the Magic Mender screen. They give you this looks like a screen door kind of screen. They give you small rectangular pieces, and you can wedge them inside and then fill them from under and then fill them on top. There's a process there, and it generally works. Other areas of the seats, I used it and it worked out great. I didn't apply it here. So when I go for the color change, then again, if I achieved the color that's showing on the camera, I probably would keep it. But it actually looks a little different, a little darker in person, a little more red in person. But what I want to go with is a Porsche color. It was something they used on the Carrera. I can't remember what generation Carrera, but it's called a natural brown or natural tan. And I looked at a whole bunch of pictures of that. And it could be the 997 generation. And I love it. So the seats are going to go that natural brown, as well as the trim. And that was something that I was kind of wrestling with this year. It looked okay. I mean, when you take the fact that I was driving around 99% of the time with the top down, and the calipers are red, and then you've got the red lighting in the back, the trim sort of helps out with those accents. But I'm going to have the trim done to match the seats. So once I get that natural brown applied to these seats, I'm going to match up that trim on the dashboard. If anybody has removed the dashboard or removed that trim and you have some tips, please let me know. I just taped everything up real carefully and painted that in place. I would love to be able to remove it just to get a more thorough paint job done on them. So if anybody has any tips on removing that, let me know. Yeah. What else do we have? Let me see. Oh yeah, the visors. So I used some tiny magnets. What I did, I bought one of those cell phone holders that you clip onto your ventilation system, and it comes with 5 little teeny tiny magnets. So I stripped it apart, took the magnets, and I glued a couple there, hoping that they would hold up the visor, because anybody that has one of these cars knows that visor sags very easily. Took it on the road, hit a bump, and it dropped. So I added a second one, and it stays in place. No question about it. It stays in there great. I can't remember if I had these in place when I shot the last video or if I mentioned them. These were 3D printed visor covers, and they do just fine. I mean, for the, I don't know, 25 bucks or 30 bucks, whatever it was I paid for them. A good man in Hawaii, actually. I forget his first name, but his last name is Burgos, I believe. Anyway, sent them up to me, and they fit pretty damn good, and they held up great. So if you're thinking about covers, looking for covers, and anybody selling a 3D model, that's an example of what the 3D visor cover looks like. Held up great. And let me see. The net. Oh yeah, this car, it didn't have the sub or the bag or anything in here. It actually came with a net, and the net was all stretched out and out of place. So I just yanked the whole thing out all together, and it looks a whole lot cleaner. Everything does. The only issue I had this year, something else I was going to get into, mechanically, I think an O2 sensor was the only thing that I changed out last year, and I actually had the code come back. And that code, no, I didn't write the code down, but it was for the passenger side O2 sensor. The code came back this summer. I was hard on the throttle on the highway one day, and the check engine light comes on. Didn't make any difference in drivability, in performance. There was nothing. There was no hesitation in the throttle, nothing. So later that day, I checked the code. It was the same one that popped up when I changed that O2 sensor, and I cleared the code. It hasn't come back since. So who knows what's going on there? It could be the cat converters on its way out. I'm hoping to get another year or two out of that thing. And then I'll sell the car again. I really don't want to replace that. But this is last year's list. So these are the things I covered off last year. That O2 sensor. Coolant reservoir was in great shape. It was just something I wanted to check out. Fluid changes. I did a service last year. The front trunk latch. I did change out that latch. $75 or something for the latch. It came from Suncoast, I believe. Changed out my serpentine belt, did the headlights, cleaned up the paint, roof fittings. Can't remember what that was about, but I guess it was nothing. Wheels. Wheels is something that I'm going to do this year. This one driver's side front. It's in great shape, and it is the only one that's in good shape. Get some brake dust on it here, but that one's in great shape. The worst of the four is on around to this side, and it's got some pretty nasty pits in it. There, gets even worse up here. So I'm going to get them sent away. There's a couple of shops down in Edmonton, that's the closest big city to me. And they're telling me they're going to charge, I think, $200 or $250 a wheel to refinish them. So I'm going to send all four anyway, just to make sure they match and get all cleaned up together. And yeah, I considered replacing the wheels, but when I realized how special these are, these 5-spoke were an option in 04. The car is an 04 S, and yeah, the wheels were an option. And the more I've seen them on this car in pictures, and the more I've seen them on other cars, other owners' cars on Facebook and stuff, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna hang on to these, and I'm just gonna refinish them. Not gonna paint them. I've seen them done black in different colors. I saw them on the anniversary car in a two-tone, and no, I'm just gonna do the straightforward thing and just get them refinished the old-fashioned way. And let me see, service, wheels, Scotch guard the roof. I did Scotch guard the roof. I don't think it rained on the car at all this year, so I couldn't tell you how the Scotch guard held up, but it applied nice and easy. Let me see. Sorry about the e's and ahs, but I didn't rehearse this thing. I'm just kind of banging through it all. Let me see. What have I got left? Okay, so I'm going to re-dye the seats. Get at that radio antenna. Oh yeah, I've got to hook up a microphone on the stereo as well. Refinish the wheel. The shifter is a little tight. I found that a little stiff as the season went through. Of course, you're getting to know a car, and as the season went on, it was like, yeah, this shifter doesn't feel quite right. It kind of feels like a mess compared to anything else I've ever had. And I've had a lot of old cars with high mileage, and I think those cables need to be greased up, cleaned up. Refinish the headlights and the steering wheel. That was another one I was kind of reaching out to people on. The steering wheel, I just got this this cover. I forget where I found it. It doesn't have any tacky knobs or weird stitching on it. It's just a real plain wheel cover. But what I'd like to do is actually re-stitch the leather on the wheel. If anyone's ever done that or has any tips on it, or a link to some place that sells the proper leather to do that, something that would fit this wheel, please let me know, because I would actually like to get it restitched or restitch it myself. Otherwise, I've got a cover for it. And that is the car. I'll maybe do an update once I get the wheels cleaned up and get everything else done, and redo the surround on the headlights. And that's it. Headlight switch. That was the last thing. And I was warned about this. Of all the things that go wrong, all the things that commonly go wrong with the Boxster, that switch failed me. And I was kind of wondering if it was a bad battery, but no, it was, the more I went troubleshooting, it turned out to be that switch. And it was a plug and play, and got the deal done. That's it.